now watching WhoDooTV.
I am a jack of all trade, master of none, and I know just enough about every subject in the world to be dangerous. I announced 5 things today. Didn't give specific release dates for all 5 of them because I'm aware of some potential stuff that may come down with the movie and the TV, and I want to try and coordinate it so that it's relevant to the retailers and the timing makes sense to them, right? Because otherwise you can do anything at any time. So the first one we talked about was a new Spawn crossover, which was the Spawn Witchblade crossover. We did one 20 years ago, and it did really well in the heyday of Image comic books when things were lots of superhero stuff. That's not there so much. I'm starting to make a little bit of a personal concentrated effort to try and build out the Spawnverse, if you will, so that there's more than just him walking around. I mean, we talked about it years ago when we first started. I don't know if you guys remember, a dragon would pop up or somebody from a Youngblood or whatever, but we never sort of got as coordinated as we ever wanted to. But crossovers are fun, right? At times they can just be sort of fun. There's a couple things with the book that's going to happen. Number one, there's a technology that you can use. Brian Haverland's doing the bulk of the artwork, and he's super tech savvy. There's a way where you can now build models and then output them and pose them and put them on pages so that you're using the same frames on all of them, which what that means to the layman reading the book, it will look exactly the same in all the panels. No matter what angle you shoot, you don't have to reinvent the drawing, right? I can't say that every angle I did of SpiderMan or Spawn is exactly a mirror of what something else is. So no matter if the head is a ½ inch or it's a full page splash, it's using the same design exactly, page in and page out, and that's going to be the same for the Witchblade character. Part 2, and we didn't really talk about it because again I was speeding along and I had a bunch. At the end of all of this, which I didn't get into, the medieval Spawn character is going to get pushed into today, on modern times, and he's going to get. So I'm gonna retweak his origin and give him a new name, and he's going to become a new character. I don't think it makes any sense to build out a universe and have everybody's first name be Spawn, right? Aqua Spawn, Viking Spawn, some Spawn. So they're gonna get rewired so they become their own characters, and then I'll probably start them off as a mini series at some point. That's down the road a little bit, but to me it's just building out my Avengers, if you will. So I sort of see him as my Thor, and always have that's coming in there. So there would be that component to it. It'd be sort of the origin of this guy getting kicked off into modern time. Brian also showed, I don't know if you guys saw some of that augmented stuff, right? There's stuff you can do now that, I mean, it used to be a little more complicated. Remember, they wanted us to do stuff, but now it's pretty simple once you have it. You just have to turn on your phone and lay it over, and you get animation. So there's time and effort that goes into having to do that, which is why a lot of people aren't doing a lot of it, because nobody's figured out how to spend the time and effort to do it and then get the money back that it takes to actually do it. But if nothing else, there's a fun factor that it'll be there. We'll see how it goes. And then there's just this silly stuff that, to me, is almost every digital should have, which is you saw where you can scroll and you can get the process, right? So you can go, oh, there's the pencils, there's the inks, there's the colors, there's the letters, there's the script, there, And the thing that something like that is good for is that people who have any intention of ever considering to break into the comic industry, it'll show them what all these pieces mean. Because short of going to a convention sometimes and being able to talk to somebody, sometimes people don't sort of know how to break these things down until they actually see it themselves. I mean, obviously, there's lots of examples now you can see on the internet, but this would just be, oh, that page was 5 steps, right? That could be one person doing it all, or it could be, historically, it's usually 5 people doing the 5 steps: a writer, a penciler, inker, colorist, and a letterer. So that'd be fun in that part. So that was project number 1. Brian Holgun is writing it. He did a bunch of Spawn and did the Kiss Psycho Circus years ago with me, and he's got sort of an interesting brain around him. The second one was Spawn Kills Everyone Too, that I call like Baby Spawn Has Babies. And so I just thought it'd be fun. I go, what happens if you took the little guy who's, basically Dennis the Menace or Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes, and then he had little babies and he had to be the adult in the room. Can you imagine if Calvin's the adult in the room? This is a bad room, right? You don't want to be in this room. So, but the one thing I found, and it was when we came out with the book, I thought it'd be sort of a little fun thing and nobody'd care about it, but it actually went into 2 or 3 or 4 printings, and we did pretty well. But because it was one issue, I had to compact that idea of him going and killing everybody in 20 pages. And I just felt it was a rush, because if you look at it in hindsight, truly, every page, other than my death in that book, every death was 1 page. And look at, can you kill somebody in 1 page? Of course you can, right? Of course you can. It's comic books. But it didn't allow me to actually have as much fun at the killing process, if you will, right? You go, look, if you guys have seen movies like Fargo, where they're trying to put people in wood chip, like, you get to come up with all this crazy stuff. And so we've been talking, Will and I, the artist, and going, hey, if we have room and we do it for 3 or 4 issues, then we can expand on how we basically whack these people off. So, and the premise on this one somewhat is that the babies, our chibi Spawn doesn't really like the babies, because why would Calvin want to raise any babies, right? So he sort of poo-poos them all, and since they're sensitive, they go, there's only one way we're going to get Daddy to like us. We're going to have to do something that gets us on the good side. So they steal his kill list, and they go, oh, maybe if we kill these guys for him, then maybe he'll like us more. Until all of a sudden you've got this double mayhem of the little babies who are even dumber than the baby. So the babies, and it just goes from dumb to dumber with some funny things in there, and you get to exercise anybody you want. It's not going to be limited to just superheroes. It'll be other cartoon characters and then real life people and whatever else. So I remember in the first one, I did this 1-page joke on President Trump and stuff. I got in trouble a little bit. And it was funny to me because, they were giving me heck, like, you think that's proper, killing good president? I said, I go, what? And they go, that's not fun. Why would you do that? Right? Because we got on Breitbart. And I go, well, first off, it was just cartoons. So, but did you read the book? Because I spent 3 pages killing me, right? So what are you talking about? That's how serious I take it. I spent the most time killing me. So I think you misread the fun part of this, but what are we going to do? So that was it. I just think, and you've seen what Scotty Young's doing, right? I think there's a room to play if you're going to get sort of goofy. Number 3 was this book called Misery. It was sort of funny that within minutes, Kirkman came off the stage. Within 2 minutes, he showed me like bleeding cool, and they had a picture of Kathy Bates screaming or something. So somebody does the headline and go, "Give me that Kathy Bates photo," right? That you come in there. So the word is just in terms, because I was trying to figure out what the word would be. Because this character, like I said, is not going to be physical in the truest sense. I don't want her to be, Wonder Woman on any level. I just want her. I've got 2 daughters, both in their 20s, and obviously my wife, and being a white privileged male myself, I just know how we cherish power, right? And at times that power comes at almost any cost to keep the power. And you don't even have to be white, because you see it in other foreign countries. I just think that there's a half of our population, which is called females, have had to endure forever, and this is her just going no. I mean, it's funny because now you see what's happening in Florida. Some of these high school kids, right, pushing back on. I'm pushing back, right? I'm going to push back. So it's not meant to be, and it wasn't meant to tie into anything specifically. It just happened to be this idea that was coming down the pipeline, and then all this other stuff came. So it'll look like it was organized to it, but it wasn't. Just to me, it just just pushing back on the id and how you can still be a hero without having to actually break bones, if you will. So she'll find out that it's not a revenge thing. She's just going to help out others who are basically just victims themselves, and will push back. So, and again, this is a character who's been in the book off and on for 25 years. So whether that matters or doesn't matter, I didn't really make that a big deal because I just wanted to be that Misery sort of stood on its own. Number 4 we announced was just the ongoing Spawn book. I think that was it. And the ongoing Spawn book is just that. I mean, it's the flagship title that's still running at Image Comic Book. Although, as we all know, we have moved miles away from Image being men in tights, which is what a lot of the books almost exclusively were at the beginning of our history. But if you look at the book that I'm writing, like I said, it's been graduating away from spandex for a long time. So that why? Because it's just my personal taste, which you're going to see if anybody goes to the movie. The only thing that's fantastic in the movie is this thing that's moving around in the shadows. It's called Spawn, but everything else is normal, right? And I'm not a big fan of there has to be a villain, an arch villain, a fast car, a secret headquarters, and ray guns, and you got the bat chopper. When I was younger, I thought that was cool. I just my audience has been around for, this is a 26th year of Spawn. It doesn't make sense to just have the exact same book for 26 years in a row. And it's one of the reasons for the direction I'm going, both in the book and for entertainment, is that I just accept the fact that I think that a big portion of my audience is getting older with me, right? So they watched the first movie, but now that was 20 years ago. They watched the animation, that was 20 years ago. They bought Spawn #1, that was 26 years ago. Like, I don't think the bulk of Spawn fans are 13, right? And, oh, by the way, even if some of that was true, there's plenty of that product coming out from Marvel and DC, right? So there's no lack of it. So I just go let them have it. I think that Image's sweet spot right now is doing the eclectic. I think that's why we're winning people over, is that we're telling stories. Comic books are in its simplest form, words and pictures. That's it. That's what a comic book is, words and pictures. The story connected to words and pictures can be nearly infinite, right? And luckily we published a bunch of it, everything from super urban stuff to like far space stuff and everything in between. It can be anything. So good story is good story. He's racing towards issue 300, which, I mean, I'm proud. I'm proud of the number of Spawn. And people have asked me, "You're going to renumber it?" And I've always said, no, never. I mean, maybe the day after I die, maybe my sons and daughters will go, "Yeah, shit, Dad, idiot." We'll go back to, but not me, right? I always thought it was cool that when I picked up any comic book, that there was 200 or 300 or 400 issues of it. It's weird. At times they're going, yeah, but then people aren't going to jump on it because it's issue 200, 300. It never bothered me as a collector. As a matter of fact, I took that as a badge of honor that a book could survive that long, that I go, wow, and I understand that all books have, ups and downs in terms of their popularity. But I go, wow, Batman's up to issue 400. That's cool. And I'm sure not every one of them, if I bought them all, were awesome. But that it survived for 400 issues is a victory in and of itself. And so, there was a while there where both Marvel and DC were renumbering all their books. I actually had the highest number book. I never understood it. I got to tell you, why would you have a book called Action Comics that started in 1936? I started in 92. You had about a 60-year head start on me, and you let me pass you numbering? That's ridiculous, right? But now they've done all the number ones ad nauseum, and they've seen, which I kept saying over the years, you get these little bumps and then it goes down. And you get these little bumps and you get down. And the sales are still tapering down for our industry every time they were trying that. So there was no data. As a matter of fact, there's counter data that doing that didn't help the sales, right? So you got a bump and then you end up going back. So now what are they doing? They've started every book 100 times over with issue number one. So now they go, let's go back to the original ones, right? And why are they going to do that? So they can get a bunch of, coincidentally, Venom's up to issue 150. I didn't even know there was 12 of them out, let alone 150. I don't know how they're coming up with their numbers. But now there's going to be a bunch of anniversary issues, so they'll get it's the equivalent to just getting this false bump again. Like, pick your mind. When I was younger, I bought the Comics Buyer's Guide, or I forget what the fat book that had the price.
Overstreet.
The Overstreet. And to me, I'm being silly now, but again, you get to control your own life. This is how I make my decisions. I used to buy the Overstreet, and the best ones were the ones where you could just go, Fantastic Four, issues 1 through 30, this price, 30 through 60. But it was Fantastic Four was contained in a box this big, and it was the entire history and the entire run of Fantastic Four. And I thought it was wonderful that I could collect every issue of Fantastic Four. And now I've said to people, if somebody put a gun to my head and said, Todd, go, collect every issue of Fantastic Four or whatever other title, it would take some homework, because I go, well, hold on, they started it and they stopped and then they renumbered and they went up and then it was here and here. In all honesty, I don't know what the through number, like what the actual continuity is. Forget the numbers, like piecing it together. And I remember, like, at a young age thinking it was cool. So when I started Spawn, I went, no. I just want this thing to just have this big, long numbering thing on it. And I've never wavered from it. Again, much to the chagrin, sometimes retailers pressuring me, saying, hey, come on, Todd, come on, Todd, come on, Todd. Look at here, I'm a sports guy. Let me also give you a bad analogy. Using the theory that if a kid buys issue 296 of the Hulk, so what are you saying? He's never going to buy the Hulk if he doesn't have issue number one? It's ridiculous. To me, it's ridiculous, because that means there'd be nobody in this country watching sports. How can I watch a Yankees game? I didn't get to see every game. I don't understand it. Oh, no. Never got to see Babe Ruth. Never got to see Mickey Mantle. How could I go? I'm in the middle. Like, what are you talking about? You just start watching now, and then you start going backwards and start finding out the history and doing it. You know how many titles I picked up at issue 144, and then I went and bought like 100 issues backwards so that I had it from 44? It was cool. I don't know. It's a weird thing to me. So, anyways, I'm just ranting about numbering. But I've also, and I may do it, I've also had this thing where I might put like 2 numbers on my book, and it'd just be like ongoing number, and then in the other corner it'd just be a number 1 every month. Fuck, you want to? If the only reason you're buying my book is because of a number, I'll put the number on my book, right? It's the same character, it's the same story, it's the same writer, it's the same artist, it's the same colorist. If I did number 1, it would be all the same, and the only difference would be a number. And if the only reason I'm selling this book is because of a numerical number on a cover, then I am failing on so many levels. It's just, I can't do it. So, but for your emotional mindset, if you need to look at a number 1, I'll put a number 1 on my books for the next 20 years if you want. Like, it's a silly conversation. 300 again. We're racing to. I have the story in which when we get to that story, there's a revelation that is a new movement forward in the mythos of Spawn. Why? I don't know. I don't think. Here's why it works. Here's why it works for Marvel and DC. I think. It's just my opinion. Stan Lee starts Spider-Man, and then he does it, and I'm making this all up, so this is all me with conjecture and then if he does 30, 40, 50 issues of Spider-Man, he starts to get repetitive, and then he loses a little bit of interest, and then Len Wein comes on, and then he does it for 30, 40, 50 issues, and then he goes, I'm starting to repet, and then Marv Wolfman comes on, and then Roy Thomas comes on, and then somebody comes on, and somebody comes. So what's happening is every 20, 30, 40, 50 issues, somebody else is coming on, but they're new and they're refreshed, and it's all new to them. And they don't know that they're repeating what the other guy was just doing. The difference here is that I've been at the steering wheel of this character for 25 years. And I'm betting if Stan Lee was still writing every one of those characters, he would have evolved them differently. I'm not saying better, I'm not saying worse. He would have evolved them. Why? Just for personal sanity. Right? It's near impossible as a human being to go, I'm just going to do the same thing over and over and over for 26 years in a row. You have to figure out how to keep some sanity in your head, and one of the ways is to just try new things. And some things work and some things don't. So that's why the evolution of the book has been different than a typical corporate superhero, because those have been rotated. I've even been part of them. Superman and Batman and Hulk. I've been part of those to go, oh my God, I can do Spider-Man for 30, 40 issues, right? I don't feel like I'm repeating anything because it's only 3 years of my life. What do I care, right? But you do 26 years of your life, you start to become aware, like a dog, you're eating the same food all the time, right? You'd be like, could you put a little cheese on it? So, which I do. I put cheese in my dog's food now, right? That's actually a truism. So, but 301 to me, like I was saying, 301, I even had a conversation with Eric Stevenson going, should we make issue 300 normal and make 301 the anniversary? Because to me, that's the record, like from a personal point of view. And then he sort of slapped me and went, Todd, I understand it, but you know what? Everybody else is trained that 300 is the number, right? So I was like, okay. So 300 will be the big double-sized issue. And then 301 will just be something with the sexy banner or something on it, and then we'll go back to it. And like I said, the tonality of it will match closer what I'm about to present in this feature film. And then the last one was Sam and Twitch. Sam and Twitch are the two policemen who've been in and out literally since issue number 1 of Spawn. And when I do, most of the time when I break Sam and Twitch out, these are stories that are super detective and non-superhero, non-special effect, like all of that goes away. To me, these are just cop thrillers, right? These are murder mysteries. This is just, if you like true detective and you don't want superhero stuff, even though quote unquote Sam and Twitch come from the Spawn, like it's okay. You can completely get reality in these guys' cases that they're doing. So we decided to do this one grayscale, just to give it a little bit of a gritty feel to it in the black and white, and that'll run 8 issues. That's being done by Shimon Kudransky, who's done a bunch of stuff on Spawn, and I think his artwork is way suited to reality than sort of big superhero comic book stuff. And as I was saying, that Twitch is the focus point of the movie that I wrote. I keep calling him my Sheriff Brody from Jaws. So he gets the most talking lines, and so I think that Twitch, if people go and they like it, the movie and stuff, the word Twitch, when people say Sam, that word's going to matter a little bit more. That character is going to get elevated. If I do my job right, who knows, with the movie, then that character is going to get elevated. And so it all of a sudden, Salmon Twitch stuff will be saleable at a higher level than it has before. Before it was just that those cop spin-offs and Spawn. I think it'd come at a different place. So, and like I said, all that's just organizing around what's happening with the entertainment to see if we can't take advantage of, and I say that in a good way, take advantage of it for both the retailers and for the customers that are going to be looking for. I'm guessing, right? I'm guessing if you're going to go on eBay and you buy a Spawn #1, I suggest you do it now, right? Because I'm guessing it's going to be a few dollars more expensive in about 4 months, 5 months, and it's sure as heck once the trailer comes out, it's going to, right? Just like Venom and everything else, right? That people just go, oh, this is the thing I need to collect now, right? So we'll see how all that goes. So that's it. That's what we've got. Lots of stuff coming down the pipeline, and hopefully being in production with the movie around May. That looks like about a realistic date, depending on our negotiations with some of the cast right now. So, questions?
Is there any movement on the BBC America Salmon series, or is that just kind of a place that now?
There is. I just had a conversation with them. Things are getting a little odd and complicated at the same time, but they're supposed to be getting back to me about some movement one way or the other. Again, they keep pushing it and pushing it. It's ridiculous to me, but we'll see. Because if not in a very short order, if they just decide to completely shit in the chili, then those rights come back to me, and then there's other people that are standing by that, because I pitched Salmon Twitch to other people because I have the movie rights to those characters. The TV rights are off. I have the movie rights. I've been pitching some of the movie rights off, and I've got like 3 or 4 people in Hollywood that are interested in it because it's you can start at a realistic level, like an urban level, right? I always sort of I'm going to age myself, but I always sort of pitch it as Hill Street Blues meets the X-Files, right? So it can be this interesting thing that's super gritty and super realistic, but something goes bump in the night, and those kinds of shows seem to be working, right? On everything from Black Mirror to Stranger Things and a bunch in between. That start with reality and not with spandex and all those kinds of things.
Now, I know that Kevin Smith has already got all the scripts, but he's definitely already submitted every Fox and stuff like that. Would that come back to you too? Or would those still be tied up? Don't be tied up.
It depends on what the next move is, because depending on where it lands, then every studio, every channel has their own demographics of who their audience is, right? And so when we were developing Salmon Twitch for BBC America, it was against the backdrop of something that could maybe butt up close to Doctor Who, right? So if it moves to another channel that doesn't have Doctor Who type programming, they have different kind of programming, my guess is they're going to want to alter it that's something more akin to what it is that people are already watching on their channel. So you go, uh-oh. And so what would that mean in terms of what's already been done by Kevin? I don't know, right? Because, if they go, hey, we want to now go the complete opposite and go super serious, I don't know if they would say that. Then, does Kevin have an interest in doing that? I don't know. So, I would, because that's where my bent is. But when Kevin came on, my job was to promote and help get his vision across, because he was the one that was going to be steering it at that point. So.
He's talked very positively about working with you, so I'm pretty sure.
Who? Kevin?
Yeah, Smith, yeah.
Oh, no, he's a good man. I mean, we like each other, right? But again, there are these decisions that get made outside of us.
Yeah.
So, someday, I'm sure we'll, even if it all fell apart, someday we'd figure out to work on something that would work, that we wouldn't have to worry about some of the goofy stuff. So, yeah.
First off, congratulations on the upcoming 301.
Oh, so that's 284 we're working on now, right? So that's 16, so about a year and a half from now. So, okay, given that the movie will be out maybe in about a year, so it'll be shortly after the movie comes out, so it'll be good timing.
And on the movie, we talked about casting a little bit. If you can't give names, are you looking at more established actors, up and coming?
We're looking at both. In all honesty, I've been meeting and talking to both and again, it depends on who the characters are in the script too, because you can imagine there's you can put them in a pecking order, right? So there's a couple. I'd say there's about 3 what I would call big roles that are meaningful roles, and there's about 2 or 3 that I think are decent, and then after that, then you don't have to be quite as particular with it. But no, casting is a weird thing because you have to find people that are interested after they read it, that they're interested in it, they have the schedule to do it, and they basically sort of meet the criteria of the skill sets that you need of that character. So there's a lot that goes into it that I'm finding out. That there's some people there on some of the lists that I thought, oh my God, they're going to be awesome, and then I was like, after looking at more of their work on their resume, and then there's other people that I was not that familiar with, but the more I look at them, they're very interesting. And then there's again, it might just be me. There's a big group of actors that you just know instantly when you see them. But they're just not household names. Which the household names are the ones that are what we would call A-listers, right? So, but there is a ton of, for lack of a better term, the B bucket that has got these wonderful, wonderful, talented people that may have just never been given the opportunity to be the star in a movie that has the chance to open up to number 1, right? I'm cocky enough, and I'll keep. I say we open up number 1. I say we open. I'll bet my house we open up to number 1. And the reason I can say that is not because I think that I'm going to be a great director and I've got a great story. Put that to the side. I think it's just math. I think it's just pure math. And the math goes this simple. 1997, when the last movie came out, it opened up to $20 million. That was when tickets were $5 a pop. Tickets are now about $12 a pop on average. So I keep saying to Hollywood, if I get the same number of people, not one more, not one less, same number of people, it's a $44 million opening. So if we come out in a time where it's away from Academy Awards and away from the summer blockbusters, then in those little pockets, which are like Halloween and like right now, that January to March window, of course, 44 will be number 1. And even if you cut that number in half, I don't know how we cut it in half, but let's just play the game. Even if you cut it in half, it's still a $24 million opening. That's still going to be a number 1 movie because Jumanji was number 1 two and a half weeks ago or whatever. Forget what happened with Black Panther a couple weeks ago. Jumanji was 11 million. It was number 1. So if you go into the right pockets, 20 million should get you at number 1, right? I think we can do a lot better than that. I think that, because remember, look what's happened since 1997. Superhero movies, right? Like, that's not an insignificant thing, right? Spawn came out and superhero movies weren't a thing, right? Now, and we didn't necessarily deliver what we needed to. Now there's been 10, 12 years of these movies that there's just a public that goes to these things. Not that I keep saying mine's not going to be a superhero movie. But what's going to happen, it's going to get bandied around that this is a character that comes from comic books. You say comic books, they're going to go comics equals superhero. There's going to be this natural sort of, so you've got people already go to it. You've got the people then that like Spawn or either saw the Spawn movie before, saw the HBO animation before, saw some of the toys, anything Spawn in the last 25 years, there's a potential to get them. Then you've got people go to creepy movies. Then you got people, with what happened with Black Panther with minority superheroes, and Spawn is the first minority superhero that came to film. It was a year ahead of Blade. So you get that. Then you have things like, I'm hoping that even movies like New Mutants do well, because if you see that trailer, it looks like a dark R-rated movie. So as more R-rated movies start to work, then that's going to happen, because mine's going to be R. And then I'm hoping that Venom rocks. and then I'll be able to ride on those coattails all day long. As I'm doing the, hey, talk to us about Venom, I can go, oh, by the way, here's this trailer for the new movie, boom, and I'll be able to go. So there's a lot of potential stuff that's there that it's hard for me to imagine that we're not going to get our opening at least. And at that point, if the movie's terrible, then that's on me.